Hey everyone, this is Joe McNamee, my wife Victoria McNamee. She's suffering from a touch of bronchitis, and so she's coughing a lot, so she's going to try to get through reading this without being too disruptive. But today's the answers to the questions that you've asked on Wednesday. So let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, the first question is from Earl from Michigan. If I was under you training, what would you tell me to do?
Well Earl, I'm not sure if you're asking about real estate, if you're asking about marketing, if you're asking about business management. So I'll just make the assumption that you're talking about real estate investing. So the first thing I'm going to tell you is you should take all my training. All right, and that's it. Bye. No, I'm just kidding you, Earl. Seriously now, you need to look for a mentor, a coach, someone to learn from who's physically doing what it is that you want to learn how to do successfully. So they need to be showing true live examples of doing what it is that you want to learn how to do, and not just saying or showing a check or maybe a couple of testimonials or something. You need to be able to pop in totally unannounced and see that happening. So that's number one. That's the first thing I would tell you to do, whether you're under me or anyone else. That's what I'm asking you to do. Second thing would be to understand how powerful your business will be when you already have buyers on your list. So the very first thing after you get someone who's worthwhile learning from is to build a buyers list. The buyers list doesn't have to be thousands of buyers to begin with. I don't know what the population is in your area, but the first thing you need to do is understand that those buyers are what you need to learn. You need to learn from. You've got to let the market speak to you, and those buyers are going to tell you what it is they have to work with down in a month, what they can afford. Now when you have real estate deals that pop up, you can look at what the buyers have said to you and decide whether it's a deal or not, whether it's worth jumping into. So a lot of people make the mistake of the house may be worth $150,000 and they can get it for 60 grand. Is that a deal? And I say, no, it's not a deal. Not until my buyers say it's a deal. Does that make sense? As if you can answer me right now. All right, and the third thing is, don't try to get too much information when you're getting started. That's the third thing that's the most important part, is to understand that too much information is the worst thing in the world for you. Get a little bit of information, apply what you've learned, and then learn some more. But let just a little pieces, little bits, tidbits of information go into you, you put it into your business, then make some money off of it, and then come back and learn some more things. So those are probably the three top things that I would tell anyone coming to work with me or learn from me on how to be a real estate investor. Next one.
This is from Jeff from Florida. A realtor friend just texted me. He said he has a buyer who lost their house about a year ago. They currently have $20,000 down, make $75,000 a year, looking for something in $100,000 plus range on the south side. Unfortunately, I don't have any homes in the area. How would you, Joe, handle this lead? Or better yet, how should I handle this lead?
Okay, well the first thing you need to do is sit down and chat with the realtor. You don't want to take a chance on making a realtor mad at you. There's many ways that you can work with realtors. Every investor struggles with that in the beginning. But have a chat with the realtor and find out what it is that you can do with that realtor. Is it a percentage, a smaller percentage of the commission based on the deal that you're able to do with that realtor, through that realtor? Second thing is, can that realtor do any type of referral fee? Most of them cannot. You need to figure out, is there a way where instead of them receiving a commission or a referral fee, maybe the realtor would be satisfied with you sending them potential customers that you can't work with. You're going to have buyers and sellers coming to you who are not going to deal with you, but are saying to you, well, you know, I think I'm going to try to work with a realtor first and see if that works. Maybe it's the seller doing that, or it could be the buyer. Well, they're sitting with you, they communicate with you through whatever advertising message or mechanism you put in place, and you could be handing off those leads to that realtor while that realtor's sending leads to you, the buyer that the realtor probably can't work with. That person has a foreclosure, and that realtor's probably going to have a hard time getting them qualified for a loan. But you know already, you just did one last week, that you can get a buyer into a house quickly, and there's 20,000 reasons why you'd like to do that right away, and I understand that. So that's the thing that I tell you to do, is have some communication with your realtor, see how y'all can work together, and it could be just sharing leads, okay?
Okay, next question. Scott from Texas.
Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry. Back on Jeff's, he also said that he had no buyers in that area. Jeff, quickly, within a couple of hours.
Don't have any homes.
Oh, I'm sorry, he doesn't have any homes?
Right.
That's right, it is a buyer. Doesn't have any homes. Thanks for keeping me straight. And no coughing on set. But anyway, so Jeff, you have no homes in that area. All you need to do is apply the things you've already learned from me and go out and quickly put some offers out there or make some connections out there. Call a bunch of landlords out there. Call a bunch of rental properties out there. Go drive the street if you have to. There's something that I'm going to be talking about later on in these answers to these questions that people might want to start taking me up on. You are in a city that you're in Jacksonville, and one of my students has already taken me up on this, so you might be able to joint venture with that student who's going to be able to provide you a lot of sellers in all areas in Jacksonville. So you'll find out about that a little bit more. There's a little tease for you.
Okay. Scott from Texas. In your experience, what are the top 3 sources for motivated seller leads that result in closed transactions?
Say that one more time.
In your experience, what are the top 3 sources for motivated seller leads that result in closed transactions?
Well, the first thing that a lot of people don't realize is you can call for sale by owners. They're kind of motivated, but a more important section to communicate with, like on different classified ad sections, for example, Craigslist, you can go towards the for rent sections. So think about it, his name is Scott.
Mhm.
Yeah, so think about this, Scott. If you were trying to sell your house and you couldn't get it sold through a realtor, and then you tried to do it yourself and you couldn't get it sold, what would you do next to cover that house payment? Rent it? So how many people are renting their houses or have their houses listed for rent in the for rent section of all the classified sections, all the classified ads? So if you're in that area looking in the for rent section, you're going to find people who don't want to sell, they just want to rent their properties. But you're going to find a lot of people who that's their last resource, that's their last step before they go into foreclosure, trying to cover the house payment by renting the house. So there's a lot of motivated sellers right there. Now the next thing you could do is make a deal with a realtor. Look for someone who has access to the MLS, and more importantly, the expired MLS. So these are all people that were trying to sell their home and they didn't sell. Are you okay? I'm making her work when she doesn't feel well. This is what you do with your wife.
Abuse.
So there's 2 places right there. Now the third place is to joint venture with other investors in your area. There's a lot of motivated sellers, and a lot of real estate investors don't know how to build a buyer's list. They think building a buyer's list is getting 20 to 200 buyers on their list, and it takes them months or even years to get that many. For us, in a few hours, we've got that many, and in a couple of weeks, we've got thousands of buyers on our list in populated areas less than 40,000. So looking to joint venture with people who have deals, and he was looking for sellers, right? So who have house deals but don't know how to put buyers into those. So 2 questions you would ask any other investor. One is, hey, you're getting property or you've got property, what's your plans? And the answer is going to be, I'm sorry, 1 question. There's going to be 2 answers from that question. One is, they're going to keep it and rent it out. So you would say to that person, if you're ever interested in making a whole lot more money off of that rental property and not being responsible for maintenance, upkeep, taxes, and insurance, give me a holler. I might be able to help you. You think any landlords will remember that and call you later on? Second thing is, some of the people who are, we'll just let her go and not worry about it. Second thing is, how many people do you know that are buying houses and don't already have them sold before they buy? I always teach people how to have the house sold way before they commit to it. But how many people are trying to buy a house or buying the house and they don't know who to sell it to or how? So these people, this is what I say to them. If you don't want any costly entanglements, you don't want to have to do any repairs, you don't want to have to spend a bunch of money on this, you don't want to have to hold on to it with all these holding costs while you're trying to find a buyer, give me a call. I might be able to help you because I specialize in getting properties sold before you commit to them and no costly entanglements. So you can think about that one there. So let's go on to the next question, and I don't even have my glasses. Can you read this one? Okay, all right.
All right, the next question is from Ernie from New Jersey.
New Jersey. My family's here visiting me from New Jersey right this minute.
How do you approach a property that is upside down?
Oh, so you're saying you want to know what to do with the seller if the property is overfinanced, over-leveraged, they owe more than it's worth. Well, again, just like I said, who was the first man? It was Earl. I said to Earl, wasn't Earl the one that asked, what would you do with 3 different things if he was under my training?
Yes.
All right, so I said to Earl, very powerful mechanism to put in place is building a buyer's list. So, for me to deal with properties that are over-leveraged, that doesn't mean anything. That's an appraised value that's going to change based on comps. It's never going to stay the same. But when a property is overfinanced, it's only overfinanced from a mathematical perspective on people that are looking at appraisals, comparative market analysis, brokers' price opinions. That doesn't mean that there isn't buyers out there that are willing to pay what that house costs per month. So my buyer's list tells me how much they have to work with down in a month. If I put a contract on that property and I send my buyer's list to it, and let's say the property costs $1,200 a month, it's worth $130 and they owe $150, but it costs $1,200 a month, and I have buyers all day long that'll pay $1,500 a month for a house like that in that area. They go and they look at it, they fall in love with it. Do I want to get into that deal? Of course I do. All right, so does that make sense? Again, I'm asking you to answer me when you can.
Okay, Jeff from Florida. What do you ask?
Wait, that's the second question from Jeff. Jeff, you're on overload. No, go ahead. I'm just kidding you.
What do you ask? How do you qualify someone interviewing to answer calls and fill out buyer scripts?
Okay,
And then
so if you're...
question number 2 is, do you pay a bonus for completely filled out scripts?
Okay, so you're looking for someone to help you with taking the calls and filling out scripts. All right, so the first thing is that you can't just go out there and hire a person by the hour and go in the red. I understand that. Second thing is, if you pay somebody by the hour, you bring them in to do a piece of the business, then you're not encouraging them to do a much better job. So what I do is I look for people who want to get some training from me. Now you have to think about it. All this real estate investing training costs money. So if they get free training from you on understanding a piece of this, you don't want to teach them how to be your competitor in your own office right away. But number 1, they're going to get some training by working with you. That's extremely valuable. Number 2, if you look at it and you put it in place where they get a piece of the revenue they cost to come in and allow them to build the buyer's list for you. So I don't want to pay somebody 1 or 2 or 5. I've heard a lot of gurus say that. I'll pay them $2 per script, filled out script they bring in. Well, you're just going to get a bunch of scripts filled out that doesn't have accurate information on it. And they're going to walk away with the money, and then you're going to have to try to chase in and get your money back. That's ridiculous. But the bottom line is, if they get nothing for it, but they get a piece of the revenue they cost to come in when you do have a deal that does close. For example, I think the one you were talking about earlier was a potential deal through a realtor with a down payment was 20 grand. Well, let's say you had to give 5 of that to the realtor. There's 15 left. Do you have enough money there to pay that person $1,000 or $1,200 for helping you build your buyer's list? Okay, so that's how I approach that. There was a second part of that question?
Yes. Do you pay a bonus for completely filled out scripts?
Okay, no, I'm not interested in paying people money on filling out pieces of paper that may or may not be accurate. Could you imagine the thousands of scripts that we have filled out constantly through our office? Could you imagine me trying to go back and try to figure out whether there really was that person, there really was that email address, there really is that phone number? I'm not going to get into all that. And then I got to hire somebody to go check on that? I'm not doing that. If it's not good information, they're not making any money. If it's good information and I close a deal, they're making money. So I'm putting everything on them to be able to perform and outperform themselves, compete with themselves, and increase my business, grow my business, and they get a piece of that revenue that they cost to come in for me.
Okay, next question is from Wendy from Washington. How do I earn
Is that
my-
Washington State or Washington? Oh, Wendy Whittle. I think her name is Whittle.
Yes.
Really, is it?
How do I earn my way to the live event?
Oh, okay, so Wendy wants to know, you're trying to come to one of my live events, and I'm on the opposite end of the world, so to speak, for you. Well, Wendy's already put in 100 qualified attendees into my group members. So she gets a 50% discount. But Wendy, now what you're asking is, how do I get into the live event called Jumpstart Your Business Bootcamp? That's where I do my live deals in front of my students' faces while I'm teaching them how to do this. 3 days long, nobody else coming in there to sell you anything. It's just all pure content where you watch me negotiate with my buyers, my sellers, and my professionals right in front of your face while you're learning how to do what it is that I do. So one of the things that you could do, Wendy, is you could bring in a second person that's a regular paying customer for that event, which brings you in for free if you're an affiliate of mine. It doesn't cost anything to become an affiliate. I think you may have already contacted us and communicated with Heather, I'm not positive of that, but I think you did, to sign up as an affiliate. So anyone can become an affiliate of mine. And so Wendy, if you got a regular paying customer, that means that it's a 50-50 split on that. So that means that you could come for free with that person. That's one way of doing it. Another way is you could just get my book if you haven't already gotten it. Get my book, study my book. There's 4 or 6 hours of free videos that come with the training. It's the free offer that's in there. You sign up for that free offer, learn how to do what it is that I do at the very basic level. Now, you're not going to be me from this. I'm not trying to say that. But you're going to learn how to do a few deals. Matter of fact, Jeff, who's been on this, he's asked 2 questions. I think Jeff made like $2,500 or $5,000 off of doing just from the training in my book before he came to one of my events. So Wendy, there's a couple of ways of doing it right there. I know you're a go-getter. I have all the faith in the world in you and your friend John also in being able to get here one day and be able to do this with us. Once you do, I'm going to turn your world upside down. Okay, what's the next one?
Okay. The next one's from Patty, Pennsylvania.
Oh, hey, Patty.
Hey. I have 2 houses that I'm trying to market now. I have about 300 buyers on my list, but new ones are much slower in coming. What are some ways to kickstart my buyers list?
Oh, so Patty's looking at, so this is May, and Patty's now just getting the first taste of what it's like to understand the cycle, the buyer cycle. So the buyer cycle adjusts not quite like a realtor's buyer cycle does. Right now, what's on people's mind more so than getting a house is summer vacation, where they're going to go, how they're going to spend time with family and friends, and get some time off when the kids are out of school. So they're focused from May until July on that side of it. So now the reason I'm saying that to you is to understand it's a cycle. Now, why was it really, really good building a good buyers list from November through March? That's because it was tax season. People either knew how much money they were going to get on their tax return, or they knew how much they were going to have to pay on their tax return, which let them know either they had disposable income or how much they had to work with to get a house. So now that season's over with. Tax time's gone. It's May. So now what's on most people's minds is vacation. So you can take a look at putting some of your advertisements in the vacation world instead of in the world of just searching for a house. Put it in front of them constantly from a different perspective. So going on Craigslist, looking under vacation type situations where vacation sales and things like that, and you can start trying to post a message there. Now you have to kind of be careful. There's, it's not just Craigslist. There's all different types of classified ad sites out there. But just kind of think about that. People's minds are more on focusing on summertime, vacation, fun. So that's where you need to start looking to put your advertisements in to grow your buyers list from a creative way during this season, this cycle. All right. Would you throw me my glasses from over there? Okay, that was Patty. All right, Richard in Florida. What states do you offer the home buying opportunity? Richard, I guess I'm imagining what you mean is, where do I offer the opportunity of taking my training? My training works in all 50 states and several foreign countries. I have students in New Zealand, Australia, the United Kingdom, Canada. I have students in China. And I have students, matter of fact, this weekend we're heading to St. Thomas. I've got some students in St. Thomas and other areas in the Virgin Islands. So I'm hoping, Richard, that answers your questions. My training programs work in many different places, all 50 states for sure. Now there's certain countries, other countries that are, a lot of my techniques do work and certain things don't, or you have to adjust, and there's things that work there that don't work here. In addition to that, if you're outside of the country, which I know you're not, Richard, but people coming from outside the country, they know that America is on sale right now. So they connect and joint venture and partner up with several of my students in the United States to make money off of deals that are happening here. So hopefully that answered what you were asking, Richard. All right, Jeff, this is the third one from Jeff, Florida. Oh, Jeff, you said the video was awesome. I guess you saw the latest television show that we did and liked it. And then you asked the question, what about the half-hour segment? Where's that? Is there a way to embed the video on our website? Is that allowed? Okay, well, this is something that I'm going to talk about in a few more minutes at the end, very end of this. But the answer, partial answer to it right now, Jeff, is that the truth commercial, which is the half-hour segment, followed the interview. So the interview was a lead-up and a toss-off to my paid program after the fact. So I made a deal with the news. Natalie Hendricks is been a news anchor for 28 years, I think it is. But made a deal with them where she could interview my business, come into my business, see how it operated. Now she's talking about possibly having us do a deal for her with her house. But then she tossed off to my half-hour segment right after that. Now it's also going to play 24/7. It's already out there online through a site that we have, and we're going to show everybody what they can do with that in just a little bit. Okay, I think that's all of them. Two more things I wanted to talk about before we go into that last piece. Kathy from Georgia. I put Kathy's deal, what just happened, she was another success story, on the membership site, right here on this site. I put it out there for people to understand what went on for her. But no one asked a question about this or pointed this out, so I wanted to just point this out a little bit in more detail on her deal. Her appraised value today is $310,000. 3 years ago, when we put the buyer in place for her, which took us 2.5 hours, her appraised value was $225,000. The deal was put in place and sold at $305,000 back then. So that meant that the entire 3 years that Kathy was receiving an income off this property, $1,200 a month, she was also receiving money from the buyer, because her full payment was another $700 and some above that. The buyer was paying Kathy's loan on the property. So in other words, less money is being owed every month on her principal while the buyer is paying that in addition to the $1,200 a month Kathy's able to put in her pocket. Then at the very end, when you add everything up, mathematically, Kathy received nearly $380,000 for a house that appraises for $310,000. So if you just think about this whole thing, how can I deal with an over-leveraged, over-financed house? That's exactly it. What did it take? It took having a buyer who could pay more than what the house cost Kathy. Whether the house cost her only $754 a month or it cost her $1,700 a month, it doesn't matter. If they're interested in buying it, I can set it up where the buyer can buy it, Kathy can stay in it as the seller, and she can control the deal and still make money off of it and come out smelling like a rose. In addition to that, of course, Kathy was never going to go into foreclosure, but there's a lot of people with the over-financed house do. Now, instead of it becoming a burden on the system, on the banking industry, and on the taxpayer bailout money that's needed to bail out that lender on whatever loss they had, nobody had to be bailed out. People made money off of it. Kathy's credit was in perfect condition. She made money off of it. The buyer's happy. They got a good deal on the house, and the neighborhood didn't have another empty house, which could become the next possible meth lab or what have you on that property. So I just want to point that out. Then there's, I think John is in Arizona, I believe. John does, it appears as though John does a lot of acquiring property, probably writing checks or handling maybe a hedge fund, some sort of a investment funds, where he buys properties with a low ARV, a low after repaired value, and then he turns around and flips them as a wholesale property to other investors. And I had said to John online that I'd show him how to get a lot more money out of those properties sitting on his website. Well, I went out and I took a look at his website. I'm very adamant about people need to be physically doing what it is they're saying that others need to take a look at. And all John's really doing is building a list of potential wholesale buyers. There's nothing wrong with that, and I'm fine with that. But here's what I'm saying to John. If, I think you did, matter of fact, I think it's written here. You did a deal a year ago. You said you sold it wholesale for $145,000. The ARB was $135,000. I'm lost on this one. I forgot what the numbers were here. Okay, is pending at $259,000 after sale. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So a year ago, you sold the house to the wholesaler, and now the wholesaler this year is selling the house for $259,000, which looks like they held it for a year, probably doing some repairs, all that kind of stuff. Well, what you could have done, John, on this, instead of just collecting a quick short check on it, I like to stay in it. I don't like to kill the goose that laid the golden egg. So one thing you could have done is you could have attached paper to it. You could have taken back a second on this property. It could be no payments and no interest for another 5, 10, 20 grand on that one property. And it only matures, the payment is only made to you once they actually sell it. You could put a piece in there like that. Another thing that you could do is you could build your own end buyers list. Instead of just wholesaling all of your properties, take some of these, stay in it, just like we did with Kathy. If you pay attention to what Kathy's deal was, when I put it online there, you'll see that Kathy sold her house for way more than it was worth, held paper on it, made money off it every month. Somebody else paid for it while she waited for the value to go from $225,000 to $310,000 in 3 years. So she made $43,000 while she was waiting for her house to get more valuable, and someone else paid for it while she did that and maintained it. So a lot of my students learned, well, all of my students learned in the beginning how to buy houses without using their money, their credit, and no lender. Nobody needs to write any kind of check whatsoever. And somewhere else on there, John, I think I seen on there on your site where you said that you were going to another auction where there were multiple properties to look at, and you're trying to figure out which ones make the most sense. And I know you're trying to build up to that and show people that, hey, I've got all these properties that are coming up, get on my mailing list. And I think that's great. It's a really good niche in there, but you can add a couple little pieces which will make you a whole lot more money. So here's what I'm saying. Build a buyer's list, hold on to some of them, and don't write any checks. Now, I'm a guy, one of the only guys on the planet that can do this. I get banks to give me properties. I don't buy them. I don't buy them as an REO. I don't buy them as a foreclosure. I don't buy them as a short sale. I don't work with a secondary market manager and pay for the note that's attached to the property. I don't do any of that. The banks just give me their properties. I'm the only guy on the planet, and I teach that. It's another thing that I teach. But no money, no credit, no lender, having it sold before I commit to it, and taking those over without having to write any of those checks. If you just learn how to build an end buyers list so that you can sit there and have a lot of these properties holding while it's growing in value, and they're paying for you to hold on to this property, and they're doing all the maintenance, upkeep, taxes, and insurance. So those are the things that I was saying on that. Now let's go to that last thing, that little teaser thing that I keep saying that I'm going to bring up. So Jeff asked a question, is there a way for us to embed the videos? Well, what you want to do is you want to build credibility in your own business. You want to be able to say, as seen on, or as viewed on television stations, heard on radio stations, all that kind of stuff. Well, what I did was I built an entire program of truth commercials, the world's first truth commercials. They're not infomercials, they're not commercials. They're the good, the bad, and the ugly of the business. So I did one strictly for buyers, where that's my buyers that came in, and we worked with them with the issues that they had, and it's live, it's recorded, but it's on television, scriptless, just like this. There's no scripts. So there's the buyer segment. Then there's the seller segment, another 28-minute and 30-second long truth commercial. The good, the bad, and the ugly with the seller who's having problems trying to get rid of it, whether it's over-financed or there's no debt on it at all, still the same issues. They're trying to sell it and make a decent amount of money off of it. Then there's two that are my students, two different ones, a 28-minute, 30-second, student 1 and student 2, on how people can learn how to do this as a business. Well, these truth commercials are a package deal that you can purchase from me. They play in your town. The contact information, instead of it being my contact information like I played in my town, your contact information for your town will bring in you tons of buyers, just like it's just done for us. My phone has blown up, my email inbox is blown up. I think I've got people sitting and waiting on me right this second in my office. But these are all techniques that most of the competitors that you know don't do. They're not on television. So you take these truth commercials, you put them on TV. Now there's the two segments of the students. They bring me more students, but they bring you more JV partnerships, and you're the top dog in your town because you're the one that brought this whole thing to light. Now they joint venture with you. You've built the buyers list, and they've going out and finding more deals. They plug their deals into your buyers list, and now you split however you want to do it. The way that I do it is only the down payment. I'll let my student or the other person I'm joint venturing with have all of the profit behind the down payment. So whatever the down payment is, we split it. So this is a package program that you can get from us, and you can give us a call. My number is 912-395-8883. You can give us a call and talk to us about how you can get that package for your area. Now, in addition to that, those 4, we'll just call them 30-minute truth commercials, there are 12 59-second commercial spots embedded in there. The spots are allocated for commercials. So I put my different companies in my area that paid me for their commercial to run during my truth commercial. So when I hand this package over to the media source that's going to play these commercials for you in your truth commercials for you in your town, the commercials are commercial spots that you can sell so that they can play during the truth commercials in your town. So what kind of companies would you put on these truth commercials? Any type of company that is complementary to yours is probably the best. So landscaping companies, a honeydew type home maintenance repair type guy. You can put in, remodelers, rehabbers, those kind of people. Insurance companies, standard and substandard, realtors, credit repair. There's the list is endless as to what definitely meshes with what your business is in your town. So kind of think about that. Now, if they're paying for commercial space, and I'll tell you what my commercials sell for, if it runs 4 times, it's $997 for one 59-second commercial that runs 4 times. If you want to make that $150 and then you have a promissory note where they make monthly payments to you of $25 a month, or whatever the case may be, but the whole commercial idea is where you sell off your commercials, which gives you the money to buy the truth commercial. The truth commercial runs practically for free. I think that I ended up with making $6,000 profit before I even ran the truth commercials on television because selling off the commercials. So you run the truth commercial, the commercials are in there, and these businesses that are receiving customers because of your real estate business being more powerful and bringing in more buyers and sellers, makes everybody happy working together. Now you've got companies who are buying commercials from you who are promoting your business on what you can do with real estate. So the truth commercial thing is really, really cool. So taking and embedding these videos, it doesn't quite work like that. What you want is to get the package for us to play on the media in your town. Then we're going to go in and we're going to buy 30-second spots to drive traffic in your town for the second half of this, which is my Director of Investors. So a Directory of Investors. So what this does is we're putting 30-second commercials in your town that are driving traffic to our site that plays these truth commercials 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So when it drives the traffic, it's running in your town and it markets my training company, but it markets your real estate investing company in this way. In the Directory of Investors, when people are driven to that site who are just consumers, the audience watching the commercials, when they watch these and they say, well, I'm in Colorado, or I'm in New Mexico, or I'm in New York, or whatever, there's a list of every state, and every investor who is invested in the truth commercials will be listed in that Directory of Investors. So when people see those truth commercials running, or those commercials driving traffic to the truth commercials, and they're not in my area where I do deals, then they're clicking on the state to see what students I have in the state that they're in. Now, every single week, we have people that come in and say to us, well, we want to buy a house in your area, or we're trying to sell a house that's in your area because we either have a house we've got to sell in another state, or we want to buy a house in another state that we're moving to. So now, when these customers come through our doors or come through our system, whether it's in another state or whatever, they come in and they can connect with an investor somewhere else where they need the help. So a lot of people come here, and there's a lot that come from Pennsylvania. I don't know why that is, but Pennsylvania seems to have, there's a direct route from Pennsylvania to Savannah, Georgia. So now the people in Pennsylvania with their houses that they want to sell now can click on Pennsylvania and see what investors are in Pennsylvania that can help them with the house that they're trying to sell. So if you're in my system and you get the truth commercial package, then you get to be in that Directory of Investors also. Okay, that's about it. I was extra long-winded, and sorry about Victoria with the coughing thing. I guess I better check on her. So thank you for listening.